In 8000 BC, a spaceship lands in the North African desert, sending a small tribe into a panic. While most flee in fear, a boy approaches, drawn by the light emanating from the ship. Fast forward to 1928 in Giza, Egypt. A team of archaeologists led by Professor Langford uncovers a massive disc and a metal ring inscribed with hieroglyphs. During the excavation, they also find a prehistoric animal artifact, an unexpected discovery. Among the relics, they recover a necklace bearing the symbol of the Eye of Ra, the Egyptian sun god. Professor Langford's daughter, Catherine, takes a liking to the artifact and keeps it for herself. Decades pass, and now an elderly Catherine attends a scientific conference where Professor Daniel Jackson presents his theories on the pyramids. His ideas are ridiculed, and the audience dismisses him. After the lecture, Catherine invites him into her car and offers him a job translating ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Daniel accepts and arrives at a military base, where he is shown the disc discovered years ago. Noticing the translations on the board, he immediately corrects the mistakes. Just then, Colonel O'Neill arrives and takes command. 2 weeks later, Daniel is still struggling with the hieroglyphs when he notices an image of the Orion belt in a newspaper. Realizing it matches the symbols on the disc, he rushes to share his discovery. The next morning, an emergency meeting is held, where Daniel explains that the symbols on the disc are not words but constellations. However, General West remains skeptical, doubting how Daniel deciphered in 2 weeks what others failed to solve in 2 years. Daniel explains that the constellations form a map, requiring 6 points to pinpoint a location in 3-dimensional space, with a 7th point representing the origin. To illustrate, he draws 2 figures beside a pyramid. The officials point out that the device only has 6 symbols, leaving Daniel confused about which device they mean. He is then shown the second part of the discovery, a massive ring made of an unknown metal found alongside the disc. At Daniel's request, the scientists arrange the symbols in sequence. As the final symbol locks into place, the ring activates, opening a swirling portal at its center. The scientists send a rover through the portal to investigate what lies beyond. The data reveals that the rover has stopped somewhere in the Callium galaxy. Based on its mass, the location could be a moon or a large asteroid. But what's intriguing is that the planet's atmosphere closely matches Earth's. Before the portal closes, the rover transmits images showing a second Stargate, confirming that the 2 gates are connected. However, the symbols on the second gate don't match those on Earth's Stargate. Without the correct symbols to dial back, the authorities consider canceling the project, fearing they won't be able to return if they proceed. The officials realize that if they travel to this unknown world, they will need to activate the gate on the other side to return. However, without recognizing the symbols, this seems impossible. Daniel insists he can decipher them, but Colonel O'Neill remains skeptical, having already seen the remains of strange creatures found alongside the ring. General West acknowledges the risks, reminding them they are venturing into an entirely unknown world. He then gives the colonel a secret objective. As the team prepares for the mission, Catherine gives Daniel the necklace she received as a child, believing it will bring him luck. The portal is reactivated, and the team steps through, instantly transported to an unknown planet. As they exit, they find themselves inside a massive pyramid surrounded by an endless desert. The terrain is barren, yet habitable. On the colonel's orders, the soldiers spread out to secure the area. Realizing the harsh conditions, O'Neill orders everyone to return home within an hour. However, Daniel admits that the gate won't work yet. He recognizes the symbols but needs the correct sequence to align them for activation. Daniel expected to find tablets at the gate, but they were missing. Now they must locate them first. Frustrated, the soldiers blame him for trapping them, but the colonel intervenes. However, after he leaves, they toss Daniel's suitcase. As he picks up his books, he notices footprints in the sand. Meanwhile, the colonel assembles a device, a nuclear bomb secretly smuggled in under General West's orders as a last resort against an alien attack. Elsewhere, Daniel follows a trail of footprints. He spots a strange creature and cautiously approaches. As it turns, he realizes it's a pet, yet there's no sign of its owner. The colonel and his team arrive and startle the creature. It runs off, dragging Daniel along as his leg gets caught in a rope. He's pulled into a small settlement. The soldiers follow with their weapons ready. Daniel tries to communicate, but the locals don't understand him. Then they notice his necklace with the Eye of Ra and immediately kneel before him. Meanwhile, a soldier scans the mineral they are mining and finds it is the same material as the gate. The tribe's leader, Kasuf, arrives and welcomes them despite the language barrier. He leads them to his city, where the people bow before a massive disc engraved with the Eye of Ra. Daniel realizes they've mistaken him for Ra's messenger. Before he can react, a siren blares. Panic erupts as the crowd scatters. At the camp, the colonel receives a call, but the weak signal makes communication impossible. Meanwhile, a sandstorm engulfs the soldiers. Grabbing their gear, they rush inside the pyramid for shelter. The colonel wants to return to the pyramid, but Kasuf stops him as the sandstorm outside makes travel impossible. Frustrated, the colonel wonders how they will get home. Daniel asks Kasuf about a symbol, but the chief misinterprets his question and orders him to be taken away, cleaned, and escorted to his quarters. Later, a young girl, Shaori, enters his room and begins undressing, making Daniel uneasy. He refuses her advances, but realizing she was sent as an offering, he allows her to stay to avoid offending the chieftain. Daniel draws a symbol in the sand, and Shaori completes it, causing him to realize she has seen it before. Meanwhile, in the pyramid, the soldiers wait for the storm to subside when a massive spaceship lands above them, causing the entire structure to tremble. They grab their weapons, but before they can act, an unseen force attacks, knocking them out one by one. The last soldier turns to face a supernatural being with the face of Anubis and glowing blue eyes. The creature drags the last soldier into another room where a glowing coffin opens and a hand emerges from it. Meanwhile, Shaori leads Daniel to a dusty basement, its walls covered in ancient hieroglyphs. The colonel attempts to contact the soldiers, but receives no response. He then seeks out Daniel, who reveals that after studying the symbols, he has uncovered the true story hidden within the hieroglyphs. He explains that thousands of years ago, an alien fled his dying world in search of a way to extend his life. Upon arriving on Earth, he encountered primitive humans who fled in fear, except for one boy who approached the ship without hesitation. The alien took over the boy's body and declared himself a ruler. To expand his power, he built the Stargate and transported thousands of humans to this planet, forcing them to mine the rare mineral that powered his advanced technology. However, years later, a rebellion broke out on Earth, and the Stargate was buried to prevent his return. To ensure history never repeated itself, Ra outlawed reading and writing, keeping the people ignorant of the past. They discover a round stone with symbols carved into it, and Daniel immediately recognizes it as the key he was searching for. However, his excitement fades when he notices the stone is broken, with one of the symbols missing. The colonel isn't concerned with Daniel's discoveries. His only focus is finding his team, so he orders everyone to return to the pyramid. When they reach the base, they see that the pyramid has been replaced by a massive pyramid-shaped spaceship. Sensing danger, the colonel arms himself and heads inside with his team. The colonel notices bullet casings scattered inside the pyramid, a sign that the soldiers fought back against something. Before he can react, the ancient creature attacks again. He manages to save only Daniel and rushes toward the gate, where he had placed the bomb, but it is nowhere to be found. Suddenly, the ceiling's circular section opens, and 3 guards descend. They seize the colonel and Daniel, escorting them to the throne room. Moments later, Ra arrives, the being the natives worship as a god. At his command, the bomb is brought before them. Ra glares at the colonel and warns him that attempting to destroy his world comes with consequences. When the guards remove their masks, it becomes clear that they are not gods or supernatural beings, but just humans. Seizing the moment, the colonel grabs a guard's weapon and fires. The second guard moves to strike, but Daniel intervenes and loses his life. Meanwhile, a group of children rushes to shield Ra, forcing the soldiers to hold back. In retaliation, the guards overpower the colonel, beating him unconscious before dragging him to the dungeon where his captured team is still alive. Ra then approaches Daniel's body, his gaze fixed on the necklace. Furious that the natives sheltered the Earthlings, he sends 2 gliders to punish them. The attack devastates the settlement, reducing the city to ruins and taking countless lives. Kasuf is very sad, believing Ra is angry because they sheltered the strangers. Meanwhile, Daniel wakes up in a coffin and finds his wound healed. Confused, he walks through the pyramid and reaches Ra's chamber. Ra tells Daniel that he was dead, but he chose humans because their bodies are easier to repair. He says they should not have reopened the gate because he will now send the bomb to Earth with a mineral that will make it more powerful and prove he is the only god. Meanwhile, Shaori is examining the hieroglyphs on the walls when her brother Skara arrives and tells her that Ra has called a meeting, so they need to go. Before leaving, Shaori tells him that she knows where their people came from and that they can no longer be slaves to Ra because Daniel has revealed the truth to her. The entire city gathers near the pyramid, some planning to revolt. Ra orders Daniel to kill the colonel and his companions. As Daniel moves forward with weapons, the tribe's people show their guns at him, showing they support him. As Daniel gets closer to the colonel, he suddenly turns and attacks Ra. Though Ra survives, the soldiers retaliate by firing at the people, causing chaos and panic. The Colonel and Daniel manage to hide among the people and escape. The Colonel tells his friends that he left the bomb near the gate, but now Ra plans to send it to Earth, which will cause a huge disaster. Daniel learns that the tribe people consider him Shuri's husband. Skara draws a victory sign on the wall, which Daniel recognizes as the ultimate symbol. He tells his friends they can go back home, but first they decide to overthrow Ra's rule and free the innocent people in the mines. In the process, they kill a guard, causing Kasuf and his men to panic. Daniel unmasks the guard, revealing that he is not a god, but a human who has been enslaving the people for years. This sparks a massive rebellion against Ra, but Ra remains unaware of it. He sees a caravan bringing minerals, and he orders the bomb to be taken to the gate. As soon as the caravan enters the pyramid, firing begins, as the Colonel and his team are also hidden in the crowd. Realizing he is losing the battle, Ra orders the bomb to be sent to Earth. Before the bomb reaches Ra's hand, the Colonel prepares the bomb and sets the timer. He tells Daniel to return to Earth, and that he will destroy the gate once they leave. Just then, a guard appears and shoots Shaori, seriously injuring her. In desperation, Daniel picks her up and carries her to Ra's coffin, which immediately heals Shaori. Meanwhile, the Colonel is attacked by a guard stationed at the portal. On the other side, Ra approaches Daniel and attempts to kill him. With only 3 minutes left before the explosion, the Colonel struggles against the relentless guard. Finally, he activates the gem on the guard's hand, causing a portal ring to descend and decapitate him. Daniel sees the portal open, grabs his necklace, and jumps through with Shaori, leading them to the Colonel while the guard's severed head lands at Ra's feet. The Colonel notices only a minute remains before the explosion and tries to stop it, but fails due to Ra's transformation. Watching the chieftain approach the pyramid with the townspeople, Ra realizes his deception has been exposed and launches his ship. The Colonel and Daniel watch the timer, unable to stop it. Suddenly, Daniel notices the gem in the guard's hand and gets an idea. They send the bomb to Ra's ship using the portal lift, triggering an explosion in space that kills him. The clan celebrates their victory. The Colonel bids farewell to the ancient inhabitants and Daniel, who has decided to stay on the planet with Shaori. Before leaving, he hands his necklace to the Colonel, asking him to return it to Catherine. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. Let us know in the comments which movie you'd like us to recap next.